Welcome to 100 Yards Football. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. Today, I got my college football history special. It's the USC Trojans taking on the UCLA Bruins November 18th, 1967. So if you like the video today, please come in and share it. I surely appreciate it here on 100 Yards of Football. There's some times in your life when the game changes. And when I talk about this football game, it brings back so many great memories of me loving this game, even right now at the age of 61. At the time, I was 7 years old, and I was really running around the house like every other 7-year-old. But that particular day was very special because I got to watch college football, and I was watching a team out in LA that I had a lot of love for back in the day, was the USC Trojans. To paint the picture, I got up Saturday morning. My mother, Inez Turner, who's still living at the age of 82, I love you, Mom, from the great state of Mississippi, cooked breakfast that morning. And you know what I'm talking about. When you got that breakfast back in the day, you got them eggs going. You got them grits with that real homemade butter. And you got them real pancakes going. I'm talking about the ones that's fat. And then you got your Auntie Mama syrup. And then a big glass of orange juice and a real nice glass of water. Then you throw in a little side cup of milk. And boy, when I finished that breakfast, I had to go upstairs and do my chores. And my dad, Chester Turner, who's living at this same time at 84 years old, from the state of Mississippi, came home that day with a new color television. And me and my sisters thought, wow, we were special in the neighborhood. My sisters, Rhonda, Bridget, and Stephanie. And they wanted to watch some program. But my parents knew how much I love football. They said, let that boy watch football, man. Let Vincent have it for these next 3 hours. So everybody knows it's from Memphis. Memphis on Central Standard Time. So the kickoff was at 3 o'clock. And it was one of my favorite teams, like I just mentioned, the USC Trojans. And think about 1967, the preseason polls that year. You had Notre Dame ranked number 1, Terry Hanratty. You had Alabama with Kenny the Snake Stabler. You had Michigan State with Jerry Ray. You had Texas with Chris Gilbert. You had Miami with Ted Hendricks. You had Georgia with Jake Scott coming in at number 6. And you had USC with one of my favorite players of all time, Mr. O.J. Simpson. Then at number 8, you had UCLA with Gary Beeman. And then at number 9, you had Tennessee with Charlie Fulton, who was from the 901, where I'm from, Memphis, Tennessee. And then you had Colorado that came in at the top 10 that year, Bill Anderson. But the game of the year was this day here, November 18th, 1967. You had the number 1 ranked UCLA Bruins taking on the number 4 ranked USC Trojans. You had 2 players that was transcending college football. Gary Beeman, UCLA at that time was considered the best quarterback in the country. But USC, they had that magnetic attraction. They had that gleam, that star in your eye. They had a player that when you heard his name, even the initials made you crawl inside. And then he was a handsome guy. And then the year before, when USC struggled in 1966, they got beat by Notre Dame 51-0. Last game of the year, in USC, John McKay made a statement, who was the head coach at the time. That's all right. Because we got help is on its way. It's coming from the city of college in San Francisco, JUCO, from Galileo High School. And his name was O.J. Simpson. Well, O.J. got his revenge early that year in 1967. Before I talk about this game right here, he put 150 on Notre Dame, and USC went up to South Bend and beat Notre Dame 24-7. But this day, you ever heard that cliche, this is where stars are born? It's always one game to signify your career. And it was O.J. Simpson that day. After in Hollywood, the LA Memorial Coliseum, stars in the stands, Kirk Douglas, John Wayne, Woody Stroud, a young Steven Spielberg. They were all there to see these young men do his thing. Let's get to the game. The game went back and forth. Gary Beeman had a great day that day. Threw for 301 yards. Had 2 touchdowns that went over 20 yards that game. Had a 53-yarder to George Farmer. Had a 20-yarder to David Newell to put UCLA up 20-14. But to play the 6-5 the game and put USC on the map, and that was a great USC team. They had Ron Yeri, Earl McCullough, Mike Battle, Jimmy Gunn. But it was this young man right here. And as I tell this play, I get excited, man. It was called Red 23 Blast. And think about this, when USC called that play, with almost 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, it was 3rd and 7. And they gave it to O.J. Simpson. He came in the hole. Then he put that foot down. He saw that opening. The guy in the hole missed that tackle, and then he just broke out and sprinted. And I jumped up and broke my mother's coffee table. And she said, boy, what's going on? And OJ took it to the house with that 9.4 speed. And all of a sudden, USC 21, UCLA 20. And you should have saw the side of USC. They went up like this. They were going crazy. It was like Motown. Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. The Supremes. Jackie Walker. Man. But that USC defense had to make one more stand that day. And they did. My man Jimmy Gunn had 2 critical sacks in the fourth quarter. But that game right there, and that play right there started the career of a man that went on and had an outstanding career in the National Football League, over 12,000 yards, first-round pick of the Buffalo Bills in 1969, my man, Mr. O.J. Simpson. USC went on that year after they won this game and went on to beat Indiana for the national championship. And the one thing I remember about this game and that play right there was what Bud Wilkerson, who was doing the color on the game, he said, man, this boy is somebody I have never seen play football with the speed and the acceleration and the ability to step in the hole at 6'2", 212 pounds. That's a game that's always going to stick in my heart in that play. So my final words this morning about that game, USC and UCLA, November 18th, 1967. As the great poet Sam and Dave, I'm a soul man going on a dusty road. O.J. Simpson in the LA Memorial Coliseum on that 23 Red Blast took it to the dusty road in LA in front of all of Hollywood. So if you liked the video this morning, please come in and share it. And I'd like to thank you this morning for viewing our videos here on One of Y'all's Football, and a special thanks to my producer, the young man out of Douglasville, Georgia, graduate of West Georgia. He's coming up, a young man, Mr. Logan Landers. Thank you this morning for producing this great video of the 1967 USC UCLA game, November 18th, 23 blast, O.J. Simpson, 64-yard touchdown run, the mighty Trojans, LA in the house, baby. God bless and have a wonderful day.